Hey guys, welcome back to Fantasy Tip. My name is Julian, and this is the Banger League Bruisers episode of my preseason content. Now guys, I know this is not my usual recording studio, but I am feeling quite a little bit sick, so I didn't go to my normal recording studios. Not able to do that right now. However, I still wanted to get this content out for you guys because I want to put out as much content as I can this preseason for you guys. Now what this episode is going to be, guys, I'm going to be going over 15 different players that have a lot more value in bangers leagues or leagues with hits than they do in standard leagues that don't have any hits in those leagues. I'm going to be detailing those players and why I think they're good value for bangers leagues or not, and whether I think they're also good value at their ADP for non-bangers leagues. And we're going to go over it and we're going to compare the differences. Now, even if you're not in a bangers league, this video could be helpful for you because I am going through some players who are valuable in bangers leagues who could also be valuable in your standard league, or maybe I'm telling you avoid them in your standard league. So I definitely suggest you tune into this video even if you're not in a bangers or hits league. Before we get started, guys, please leave a like and hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. And guys, follow me on Patreon if you haven't already. It's very, very cheap. It's only $3 Canadian per month, and you guys get a bunch of early access videos from me. Yes, every time I make a video in advance and I upload it, you guys are gonna get early access to that. Now also you get to see my full preseason schedule and exactly what I'm releasing when. So you guys will know exactly what video is dropping when. So I think that will also be helpful for you guys if you want to come and support me on Patreon. All right, let's jump into the content now, and let's start with the first guy on the list, and that is Brady Kase. Now last year he had 83 points in 82 games, which is pretty freaking good. Had 11th best hitting rate in the league last year and was third in penalty minutes. Now, I have him ranked as the number 13th best player in hitting leagues. So with the ADP that he's currently going at 12.3, pretty good value, pretty standard value. That's pretty much where he should be going. But I do only have him at number 29 if you're in a standard league that doesn't have hits. So I definitely would not be drafting Brady Kase that early if you're in a league that does not have hits in it. Be very careful with that, because if you're drafting him that early, you're wasting your pick because he's not going to return that kind of value for you. But in hits league though, he has a very safe floor because he shoots a lot and he hits a lot, and he's going to be a good pick for you if you're able to get him at number 12 or 13. Next guy I have is Alex Ovechkin, who's currently being drafted at 18.2. Managed to score 75 points and 42 goals last year in 73 games. He finished 40th in the league in hits and 12th in the league in shots on goal. Now in hits league, I have him ranked as the 16th best player, which would make his ADP pretty good value. However, I only have him ranked as the number 27th best player in non-hitting leagues, so I would not be drafting him this early. So guys, beware if you're in a league that doesn't have hits in it, you're not going to be returning the best value from drafting Ovechkin this early. He is getting older, and while he's still scoring a lot of goals, the hitting upside is definitely what makes him this valuable at this point in his career. So don't draft him this early if you're not in the hitting league. Let somebody else do that. The next guy I have on the list is Timo Meier, who's currently going at an ADP of 37.9. He was 79th in hits last year, so not the best, but very far from the worst, and was 7th in shots on goal. So yes, and no matter your type of league, most leagues have shots on goal, so he's going to give you a pretty safe floor. Now I have him 30th in hits leagues. So that value, that ADP of 37.9, pretty good if you're in a hits league. However, he's not even in my top 50 players if you're outside of a hits league. So I would not pick him that early if you are not in a hits league. So be wary of that. Timo Meier, one of my favorite players in the league right now though. I like him a lot in New Jersey. Now JT Miller is the next guy on this list with an ADP of 39.3. And he's about as safe as it gets when you're drafting a player, right? He very rarely gets hurt. He hits a lot. He shoots a lot. He's a safe pick. And as far as he's been on Vancouver, he's always done well productively and points-wise as well. So definitely not worried about him too much. And last year he was 28th in hits and 57th in shots on goal. Now, if you are in a hits league, I have him ranked as number 22. So being ranked at almost number 40, that's a steal. I think it's a very good value if you get him around 40. That's very, very good value. Now, if you're in a non-hits league, I have him ranked at number 38. So still pretty decent value. That's pretty much where he should be going, is where his current ADP is. So regardless of your type of league, JT Miller, where he's currently going in drafts, not a bad idea, especially if you're in a hits league. Next guy on the list is Svechnikov, 55 points in 64 games. Unfortunately missed the end of the season last year with an injury, but last year in terms of hits per game, he was 89th and 31st in shots per game. His ADP at 65.9 does make sense if you're not in a hitting league. However, if you are in a hitting league, if he can stay healthy, I have him ranked as the number 41 best player. So that's pretty good value for you guys if you are in a hitting league. So definitely recommend drafting him maybe a little bit earlier than that if you are in a hitting league. The next guy I have on the list is Moritz Seider, and he is going in at ADP of 86.7. He had 42 points in 82 games last year, was 5th in block shots. Most leagues these days have block shots, so no matter what, he's giving you a pretty safe floor there. He was 24th in hits, so pretty good there as well. I have him as my number 12 defenseman this year in hits leagues. Yahoo has him their number 14th ranked defenseman. So be sure to tune into my top 50 defenseman videos to see which guys I think you should be picking ahead of Moritz Seider. That video should be coming out within the next week, so stay tuned, guys. You Patreon subscribers do know already when that's coming out. Now, I wouldn't draft him this early, though, at 86.7 if you don't have hits in your league, and especially if you don't have blocks in your league. He is going to do better offensively. He should get a top power play spot this year in Detroit, assuming they don't do something stupid and give it to Goss this year, but they should give him the top power play. So his offense should be better this year, the entire year, and overall, I think he's going to have himself a nice year. Next guy on this list is Darnell Nurse, who's going at an ADP of 102.9. Now, last year he finished 91st in hits, which is low for him. Last year, he had 196 in 71 games. This year, he only had 148. So definitely, there's room for him to grow in that hits department. Definitely can get back on track. He was 12th in block shots last year, which is really good, and was 84th in shots on goal. So while the hits and the shots on goal weren't that high last year, he definitely offers a really safe floor with a pretty decent amount of each of those things. Now, I think this is a pretty good ADP for him in hits leagues. It's as safe as they come, right? Darnell Nurse, he'll score probably about 40 points and put up a whole bunch of peripherals. So he's going to be a really safe floor night in and night out. Outside of hits leagues, the ADP might be slightly high, but he's still going to offer you a safe floor as long as you do have blocks in your league. I don't mind drafting him, around this ADP either. The next guy I have is Jacob Trouba, who was 18th in hits last year, 4th in block shots, and 86th in shots on goal. He's another guy that's kind of a juggernaut, does a little bit of everything, scores a decent amount of points as well. 30 points is not terrible by any means, and he's pretty good value in hits leagues at this ADP. Otherwise, in my opinion, if you're in a non-hits league, this is just okay value to not that great value, but still a very safe floor with him. So if you do just want to draft a guy who's very safe floor, he's definitely not a bad bet. Then I have Radko Gudas, who last year he got 17 points, but he's not really known for his points. 313 hits, which was 2nd in hits last year, 31st in penalty minutes, and 66th in block shots. The only thing about this year is I'm a little bit worried about what he's going to look like in Anaheim. Big hitters like him don't always follow the same trends after being traded. So personally, I'm going to be staying away from Radko Gudas, but if he falls a lot later than this in the draft, like towards the last few rounds, that's when I might throw a dart at him because he's going to give you a pretty safe floor, or at least he should continue to give you a pretty safe floor, although his plus and minus this year expected to be a lot worse in Anaheim. Now, Sammy Blais is the next guy on this list, and he was 14th in hits per game last year, and he has not really any value in non-hits leagues. He kind of broke out in St. Louis last year near the end of the year after he was traded back there with 20 points in 31 games. Looked pretty good, and I was recommending him on the waiver wire last year. Now, I'd be willing to take a shot at him with one of my last picks of the draft. I know his ADP is 175, but he's only 8% roster right now, so he's not being picked in 92% of leagues. And this is very contingent, though, on where he's playing in the preseason. Daily Faceoff right now has him as a 4th liner. If that's the case, I'm not touching Sammy Blais. I'll pick him up later if he gets promoted or whatnot, but I'm not touching him. So it really depends where he ends up playing preseason. So if you're drafting really early for whatever reason, don't do that in the future, by the way. You should definitely get a better look at what preseason lines and whatnot looks like before you draft. But if you're drafting early, I wouldn't touch him. But definitely, if he's playing in the top 2 or 3 lines in the preseason, I might throw a dart at him. Tanner Jeannot was 6th in hits last year and 8th in penalty minutes. I'd only take a shot at him if you're in a Bangers or a Cats Bangers leagues that has both penalty minutes and hits. He's going to be great for that, good value for that, but other than that, I'm not touching him in any other type of leagues. Don't consider him in any other type of league. Luke Schenn's the next guy on this list, and he was 1st in hits last year, 21st in penalty minutes, and 112th in block shots. So he's pretty good if you're in any kind of league that has hits and blocks. If you don't have hits in your league, I wouldn't consider Luke Schenn at all, but he's a top 50 defenseman in my opinion this year if you do have hits in your league. It'll be interesting to see if he has the same kind of role, big hitting guy in Nashville, but I do believe he will, and I do believe he'll be able to continue to be a top 50 defenseman in fantasy in any kind of league that has hits, and especially if you have penalty minutes as well. Arber Xhekaj is an interesting one. Didn't play a full season last year, only 51 games, and he's not a guy who's going to get a lot of points. However, he was 24th in terms of hits per game last year, 4th in terms of penalty minutes per game last year, and he's not particularly apt in blocking, so I wouldn't look at him for block shots. But if you are in a league, a true Bangers league with penalty minutes and hits, Arber Xhekaj is definitely someone I'd look at with one of the last picks of your draft. He's definitely someone who's gonna, put up some penalty minutes and some hits for you. Don't worry about anything else. That's what he's there for. Jack McBain was 4th in hits last year, 63rd in penalty minutes. He may end up being relegated to a 4th line center role this year, so I'm not super high on him. However, if you are in a Bangers league that you need that kind of stuff, you could throw a super late pick if you're in a really deep league at him. Not super high on him though at all this year. And finally, Nick Delorier is a guy you're going to want in true Bangers leagues or Bangers Cats leagues where you need hits and PIMs. He was 3rd in hits last year and 2nd in penalty minutes. This guy is really good for those type of leagues, and he's terrible for any other type of leagues. Would not consider him. As for some other notable players, this is a list of players who are more valuable in Banger leagues than they are in your standard league. So if you do have hits in your league, these guys are more valuable, particularly the guys in yellow. These guys are only valuable in leagues with hits. Tanev, Kraus, Lowry, and Pajot. The other guys will still have some kind of value in other leagues, but definitely guys to know you have more value in hits leagues. And that's it, guys. Thank you so much for watching all the way through. If you enjoyed the content today, please leave a like and hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. Thanks so much for being with me and not my studio today, and I'll catch you in the next episode of Fantasy Tips.